running on both.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome, everybody. You have found Rocking It Grand on the Christian Parenting Network, and we're so happy to be here with you today. I'm with my good friend Shellie Thomason, who's with me every week, but we've got a special guest with us today, and we're so excited about this. I mean, this is like crazy. You know, we're into April, but right around the corner is Mother's Day.
Dun, 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 dun.
And so this is such a great time for you to be thinking about what you're going to do with your mom. Mm-hmm. You might want to do a podcast with her, or you may want to take her to lunch. But Shellie is doing a podcast with her today.
Yay! I'm so glad we came up with this idea, Chris. This is exciting to me. What we want to do today is just introduce you to the women that are behind us. And I say women because we're talking to my mom this week, and next week we're going to be talking to Chris's mom.
Yeah.
So we're just going to let you kind of peek in and see the women that raised us. How about that?
I think that's a great idea.
So thank you for coming, Mama.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
You have a name other than Mama. Well, I guess I should introduce you. This is Charlotte Rushing.
Yeah, it's rare that we get to say those names. Yeah, because Mama, then Grandma, or what was your grandma name?
Nanny.
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 So, Nanny.
Nanny.
Yeah, Mom and Nanny take over from Charlotte.
And our grandchildren did that. When Mama was going to be the first-time grandmother, Cindy was pregnant first. Remember this story?
Yeah.
And you wanted to be Gan Gan.
Gan Gan.
Gan Gan, okay.
And so we decided she'd be Gan Gan.
I first wanted to be Mama C.
That's right.
Cindy wouldn't let me.
Yeah, so she didn't like Mama C. I think Cindy came up with Gan Gan.
Yeah.
But the short story is that we all got behind that name and we cross-stitched, that's when you cross-stitched.
Yes.
Gan Gan on pillows and picture frames and everything in the world. We were so ready for that first grandchild. And then they came along and they renamed her Nanny. And we were like, did you not see the pillow?
So the grandkids came up with
actually,
like John Luke came up with my
To Mama.
To Mama. I love that.
And I try to tell new grandparents, don't try so hard.
Because they'll name you.
They
They're
will
going to
name
name you something.
They don't care about cross-stitch pillows. They don't care about anything. They're going to say what they're going to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now she's Nanny, and she's a great nanny, and she's my mom. So let's just jump into a conversation and learn something about Charlotte and Stone Rushing. So, Mom, I know that you are a preacher's daughter.
No,
because your dad, my Papa Stone, was my hero and a Southern Baptist preacher, but he wasn't always a preacher. So tell me a little bit about growing up, where you grew up, and when Papa surrendered to preach.
Well, Daddy was a superintendent here in the paper mill in West Monroe. And we just lived a normal life like anyone else and had horses and cows and things. And the Lord called Daddy to preach. And
now, Papa was kind of a renegade before he surrendered to preach.
Oh, he was a bad renegade. And I mean, the Lord had to have done it.
There's the backstory there.
Backstory in that. And so his first church pastorate, he resigned. Let me back up. He resigned his church, his job, and we moved to a house out at Shellie Baptist Church. And I can never forget it. It had a long hall down the middle of that house with, the bedrooms on one side.
Like a dog trot.
Like a dog trot. And I was scared to death to go to bed at night because it had shutters on the windows. And, you hear that story at Christmas, how you slung open the shutters. Yeah. Anyway, I think it snowed more inside than it did outside that year. But anyway, we walked and played and went to school at Drew School, my first school to go to. We had outhouses. We did not have bathrooms. We didn't have any running water.
Wow.
We washed dishes. I can remember washing dishes on a wood stove. Mom had a wood burning stove. And Elaine was older than me, and 3 years. And so she'd always wash them, and I got the job of drying the dishes.
And you were probably, 6 when you started doing that, or
probably
younger?
6,
Yeah.
Now, I also know, and I'm going to toss in here, when Mom says it probably snowed more inside than outside. So when y'all took that pastorate, and kind of like step down into less of financial opportunity than he had before. Money was tight. And there were cracks in the walls. If I have heard this story enough that I know that snow would come into the house.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Mother, the first thing she taught me was to iron Daddy's handkerchiefs.
To iron his
Iron
handkerchiefs.
his handkerchiefs, because she ironed everything.
I ironed nothing. She ironed handkerchiefs.
And well, when I married, I ironed your dad's underwear. I ironed everything.
Oh my gosh.
And the girls' little ruffles around their, underwear.
Yeah.
Those little
You ironed
panties.
those?
I ironed that, girl.
Made everything we wore.
But everything was cotton, I think.
It was.
You know, at that
So
point.
you needed
But
to
we
you
had
needed
no outside activities.
Right.
Everything was family, and everything was church. And that was the importance of us. Dad always went through he always instilled in us as children that if he couldn't make us mind and pay attention, he couldn't make anybody else in the church to follow him.
Right,
is
right.
what I'm
He couldn't
trying to
encourage
say.
anyone
Couldn't
else.
encourage.
Right.
And so he was very, very strong on that. I won't ever forget Shellie when she was a little girl. Somebody said something about church to her one day, and she said, "Church, church, church." That's all we ever do.
And I had a speech impediment, and she means exactly the way she says it. Church, church, church.
And
Right?
then I remember we moved from there to Ringo, Louisiana, and Daddy took a church pastor there for maybe $50 more a month. We went now really, and I'm telling you this, $25 a week at Shellie from a superintendent salary.
Yeah.
And, to that. And Mother rang chicken necks and for chickens, and we dug potatoes from our neighbors. The people in the community helped with the food, and there were ladies in the church that would help Mother sew. Mom didn't sew, but she would do the hem work and that kind of thing.
So y'all really, you use the expression hand to mouth, but y'all lived that
Yes,
way.
we
Y'all,
did.
It was hard growing up. What did that, I'm curious, I think I know the answer to this, but how did that impact the way you ran a house then when we girls were growing up? I say sometimes I'm one of four because you also raised Rod, your younger brother. So how did that, those hard times, like
the only brother.
the only brother. We got Papa, that's my dad back in the corner. We're gonna have to bring
He's
him on camera
contributing, yeah,
later.
we
He's,
will.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
he's
very
contributing.
good.
But how did that impact you
Well,
raising us?
Mom and Dad, especially Mom, always taught us not to be, not to throw things away.
Not to be wasteful.
Be wasteful.
Not to be wasteful. And she would make many meals out of something that was left over. For instance, a roast.
Yeah.
We didn't have a roast, not many, unless somebody gave us one.
But if you
But
did, you
if we
stretched
did
it.
have one, we stretched it.
Yeah.
And just back in that day, you cooked whatever you could find to cook.
Right, yeah.
And we didn't go to the grocery store, and we certainly didn't eat out. I didn't even know what eating out was. My mother got sick one time. I won't ever forget this, as a little girl, and we were happy because Daddy was able to get us a hot dog.
Oh my
And
goodness.
he went to the store and got some hot dog
Oh, my
buns
goodness.
and some weenies.
Yeah. And that was a big deal.
You were uptown.
We were uptown, girl.
But see, that has been beneficial. Chris and I talk a lot about mentoring and teaching, generations that come after you. And your understanding how to stretch a meal then benefited me because I learned how to make groceries go further and how not to run by the grocery store. All those lessons that you learned growing up,
right.
then you went ahead and you taught us. And I tell, Chris has probably heard me use the expression because we've talked about it, I think on air, of pantry cooking. You taught me pantry cooking. Every time I mention that, Mom, on my website or anywhere that I'm speaking, people have questions about it. So I'm going to pick Mama's brain about what it means to pantry cook.
Well, these girls nowadays, they may open the cabinets to their pantry and they close them back up.
Wait, she's talking about me now. Okay, here we go.
And-
I'm so eager to hear this.
Okay,
Here we
you're a
go.
people
Yes.
now.
So,
You're
they,
ready.
so they say, I've got to run to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Because everything's got to be right then, fresh, right
Yeah.
then. Well, we bought groceries once every week or every 2 weeks. And we froze our meat. We came home and we divided the hamburger meat into different packages and put it in the deep freeze.
That's what stretching is about.
And that's what
Yeah.
the stretching goes
Yeah.
from. The pantry, when you look in there and you know that you have got the main ingredients to go with anything else, which would
it just
be
takes time.
which would be the Holy Trinity. I'm
Yeah.
going to start off because you have that in your refrigerator.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
always the onion and the
Yeah.
peppers and
Right.
and that type thing. Celery.
Yeah, for our listeners who are not
Yeah.
from the South, they may not understand that.
Yeah, so that
Oh.
references to onions, pepper, and celery. Mom would call and a lot of people in the South would call the Holy Trinity of cooking, because Mom taught me if you put that on the stove and start sauteing it down in some butter, it already smells like something
Smells
fabulous is
great.
happening.
And you know,
in
I'm not a cook,
kitchen.
but I can do that. And Johnny will come through and it's like, oh, it smells so good.
Oh, that's right.
So you can fool anybody if you
That's
just
right.
have onions,
Something
start
cooking.
down.
And see,
start
Mama
going.
taught us, Chris, that when she opened that pantry or the refrigerator, whatever looked like it was expiring is what you used
Right.
first.
That's right.
And so I learned from you that when I opened up the pantry and I was going to cook something else for supper or for dinner, and I saw potatoes and they had eyes on them,
You cut
then
those
Mom was
eyes
like,
off.
"Oh no, that's where you start."
Right.
So you
Yeah.
looked, you learned not to look past the things that were about to expire, and those are just lessons that I thought people would benefit from.
I think so. Yes, I
it's-
love that.
And it's so easy when you have the Trinity cooking
Mm-hmm.
already. If you've got potatoes, for instance, or rice, you can put you some rice in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can put you some little water, a can of cream, mushroom soup, or something, and you can just make
And then you've got a meal.
You start
meal.
making a meal just that quickly.
One of my girls' favorite meals when they were growing up was to have. I would do that and make a gravy with hamburger meat.
Mm-hmm.
Put the hamburger meat in there, and you make gravy out
Mm-hmm.
of it, and so you got this big pot or skillet really of hamburger meat,
Uh-huh.
and we served it over toasted bread.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, never did that.
Yeah, that's just
That is-
one
Now
more
you
way
can
to
learn,
use
and
that.
you can be smart.
I
so-
can be smart.
So,
Yes.
because I'm looking at our time, and I know there's so many other
Oh.
things I want to talk to you about. I am going to just leave you with that little bit of tidbit on pantry cooking, and we're going to move on.
Oh, yeah,
How about
okay.
that? Okay.
Okay.
So I
Good
want to
cooking.
talk to Mom about something else that I think is such a good lesson buried in it. Chris, when we girls began to play basketball, and you know me as an athlete, that big deal about sports, but we loved it, and we all began to play basketball. And of course, Mama got us to all the practices and everything, the games and all that. One day, she never mentioned that she played. Okay, never mentioned that she had played ball. She just supported us. One day, I found her high school annual, true story, and I opened it up. Now, Mom's maiden name was Stone, like a rock stone, and I started finding all these clippings. Stone sizzles the net for 44. Stone burns creekwood for 52. Stone, and it was just clipping after clipping, and it was my mom, and it was about the, what did they call those people that came to scout you, American Redheads? Is that
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
This first female league that came to scout her. All of this was in this book. So I go to Mom and I'm like, do you want to tell us anything? So
Have you left something
yeah,
out?
there are a few
Yes.
headlines you buried here. So why was that? What was it about your
Because
kind
I'm
of
going to say
not
this
telling that?
right now. We haven't interviewed my mom yet, but it would be the very same.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom
Probably
had
so.
a beautiful singing voice and was approached many times to become a star.
Yeah.
And she didn't. She was a mom and raised
Yeah.
6 kids. But she rarely spoke of that.
Mention that.
So
Yeah.
there's something about the
old school.
old school way of not throwing yourself out there that everybody's doing today.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, we Are you ready for
Yes, yes, we're hanging on your every word, honey.
Well, we were taught not to brag about things that
Yeah.
we did when we were kids, and to get up and go on or whatever. I hated to see people stand up in a classroom and brag about something, and here's this poor little child sitting over here that couldn't do
Yeah.
any of that. And so Daddy was real strict on us about bragging. Well, as I grew and as the
We came
girls
along.
came along, I just never thought it was real important to dig out my scrapbook. I mean, it just
I
never.
can imagine that's exactly what my mom would say.
Yeah,
I just didn't think it was that important. What?
We thought it was very important.
Very important. Yeah.
So I finally, after Shellie, approached me, and I think it was scattered actually. Y'all moved or something, and they found a bunch of
Yeah, we
clippings up in the middle
continue
of
to
the
find
road.
treasures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just something that was built in my nature, to not brag
what
about
you were taught.
what you were doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember you saying to me, and I'm going to bring this back to you, you may have forgotten, but you didn't want that weight when we would go to play. You didn't want us to feel like we had to live up to her expectations.
standards.
Stone hero here.
No.
Did
Yeah.
she ever show you her moves though as time
Oh,
went
yeah.
on?
Oh, yeah.
So she did.
Okay, so once the cat was out of the
Okay,
bag, then we began to see a lot of those legendary moves. She had a hook shot that was deadly.
That's
Deadly hook
awesome.
shot, and so when she even played with our grandchildren, once
Okay.
once the news was
Once-
out,
yeah, once
so
you
she
knew.
played with us a lot over the years. She didn't play with us a lot anymore.
So Stone was
But she
sizzling
is.
in the family game
Sizzling.
after the word got out.
Yes.
Got out,
Then
yeah.
we-
That,
when
that's
we
awesome.
found
But
out.
I love there's something so sweet about that
Isn't
with,
it?
with this generation. Because right now we're in a time, as you know, with social media that, and I say this to my kids, I didn't know if the person next door could sing. Now you know everybody, you think everybody else can, and you have
Right.
no talent because it's all right in our faces that
Right.
we see that. So just as you spoke about, you hated for some child to, for you to be bragging about something and then not have that opportunity. Well, that's what our kids live with today, and that's what
That pressure.
our new moms and dads are facing as they raise their children up. That pressure of where's the balance
So
there
true.
of what to share
That's
with
right.
people and what not to share. I think there is a balance. I think y'all could have shared a little bit more. I think it would have been okay. I think God
so,
would
too.
have thought it's okay. But then we're on the other end of sharing so much that we don't know how to hold back.
That's right.
So I think, hearing stories like this from moms and dads out there, hearing stories like this, I think it just helps them say,
Gives
okay,
them some
what's the
pause.
perspective here? Let's try to get that balance in our children.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we don't not say anything, but we don't have to say
Where's
it
that
all.
balance?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so
That's right.
I have one more lesson I want to address
Oh,
because,
gosh.
and oh no, you can talk to this easily, Mom, but Phil and I joke a lot about how when we were getting married, Papa, my dad is sitting over here in the corner, y'all, and he can attest to this. I was about to walk down the aisle, and he told me, you can still back out if you want to. I mean, despite the money, despite the big wedding there, despite everything waiting, you can still back out if you want to. He was letting me know that. Well, Phil jokes about thanks, thanks a lot, but I didn't, and we, of course, are happily married. But here's the thing: once we tied the knot, then that was over. Our marriage was our marriage,
Yes.
and you would never take up for even if I wanted you to take up for me over Phil, or you would not take up for your daughters over their spouses. So thank you for that. Why is that?
Welcome. Well, really, to tell you the truth, I probably, if I took up any at all, it was probably for the spouse.
This
more
is so
than it
true.
would be for you.
This is so true.
Because I raised the girls, and I know their temperaments, and
Yeah.
I know their little ins and outs, and
Yeah.
so forth. But I also know the husbands that they married, and I knew in 2 minutes it'd be over with. Whatever the little spout was, but whatever I said
Oh,
would
there you
always
go.
be there.
There you go.
Whatever I said about
Their
him
spouse,
or
right.
whatever would always be there, and that was not good.
Okay, what a great
Isn't
lesson
that a good
there.
lesson?
Just recently, and I think it's a generational thing too. Just recently, my brother and his wife shared their testimony. My brother's 5 years younger than me, so around our ages, and they tell about when they were going through such a rough time that his wife, my sweet sister-in-law Kim, went home, and her daddy said, "No, your room is a guest room now.
That's right.
You go back
That's right.
to your husband and
Yeah.
you work it out."
That's good.
And I think there was
good.
again more of that you stick to it toughness.
It's
You know
on that.
this generation. I mean, like you said, snow came in your window. You were digging potatoes out of the yard. There is a toughness that we don't have, even from my generation down. We don't
That's
have
so true.
that
Well,
you guys had.
You know, we farmed, and let me kind of back up just a little bit. My mom was the type person that always got up, regardless where she had some money, where she didn't have money, or what was going on that day. She put her makeup on. That was the first thing she did, was put her makeup on.
You taught me that, to put
And
your
I
face on.
taught
Is that
those
what you
girls.
say?
I said, y'all put your face on. If you don't go anywhere except put your little lipstick on, comb your hair, do something with
It
it.
taught you to face the day, didn't
Face
it?
the
right.
day. That's exactly true. And I can remember Marley, now talking about going back home, Stanley, who just passed away not
And
long
this is
ago.
Mama's
This is my mom's
sister.
sister,
Yeah.
Marlita. And her husband, he took Marlita back home.
Oh,
And to
really?
the doorsteps.
And
And
they said
They
no.
said no.
No,
They
Daddy
said no.
said, he said, "Preacher, I brought her back," and said, "You're gonna have to keep her." And he said, I didn't marry her.
Yeah.
Wow.
You married her, and
Yeah.
you take her back home, and y'all work that problem out."
Yeah.
And they stayed married how many years?
60 years, would have been 61 had you not died.
Lessons, everybody
abound,
out there.
people.
Listen to this. That is
And
amazing.
nowadays, you know, I don't like him no more. Well, that's
Yeah.
your problem. Start off with, you didn't love him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's going to go to preaching. I
here
wish
she
we
goes.
had. I wish we had
Another
30 more
30 minutes for
minutes.
the
here.
sermon, yeah.
We could get some good preaching out of
I'm
this.
ready to cut
But
off.
Exactly.
should we? I didn't give Mom a heads up on our question.
Well, I want to ask this one more thing because
Okay,
my
okay.
parents, and I think it's the generational thing. They lived and spoke to us in quotes, you know, little proverb type quotes. Like
yeah.
my daddy, if we were unhappy about something, he would say, "Well, if wishes were horses, the beggars would ride."
I know.
And he would just leave it to us to figure out what, and we'd be like, "What?
What?
You know, what is that?" And there was like this no big intellectual discussion. Look me
No.
in the eyes, get
Yeah.
down on my level.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you. No, he just like said something, and we were just like left to like figure out life.
Yeah.
And of course, my mom's one of her biggest ones is pretty as pretty does because
that was
our
she
mom
was
said that.
like, you
Yeah.
know,
You're only as pretty.
You're only as pretty as the actions that you know.
That's
That kind of
right.
thing. Do you have one?
I had that to
Yeah,
start
there's
off with,
tons
as
of
pretty as
those.
it,
Tons of those.
and get that frown off your face and put that smile on your face,
Exactly.
you
And
know,
you
or
can
suck it
get
up.
happy in the.
You can get the
same-
happy in the same pinch that
There
you
you go. I heard that so
Exactly.
many times.
Exactly.
All right, now we're going to ask her the
Okay.
question that I didn't prep you with. So this is like a trick question, but I think that it's going to be interesting. One of the things we like to do at the close of our podcast with our guests is ask them a question. And we take, you can't speak about faith or family, so that's a biggie. Taking those things like off the table, what is something that even as you continue to age, in the next 5, 10 years, or however long the Lord gives you, what's something you still want to be doing, still want to be pursuing? Because we're always about continuing to grow and learn and not stopping and sitting down. So what's something you would still like to be doing in years to come?
Well, I'd still like to be active enough to be with my grandkids,
There you go.
great grandkids,
Yeah.
and being in sports with them and doing the things
And
that they do,
maybe-
and playing the piano that I had to retire from,
Yeah,
and that really hurt.
yeah. Well, you retired
But
from the
I
church.
still- yeah,
and you still
but
play
I
home.
still play at
'cause
home.
I see it from time to
Yeah.
time when Shellie posts something
Oh,
for us to
yeah.
enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah. But that does hurt, you know,
Yeah.
the fact that you can't do the things that you used to do.
Right.
I think that's
So you
the
learn
thing.
another way
I
that
learned
you
that
can.
going shopping and doing the things that in general that you that you once did. And now I don't know, I mean, what difference that this makes, but it does make a difference. I have macular degenerative in my eye, and I can't see as well, so therefore I don't drive.
Yeah.
And so those things play a big factor into what I do
Right. Yeah.
during the day. But I have a very good chauffeur.
You do, you do. And I tell you what, we're going to close out the podcast, Chris, and then I'm going to get Papa to walk back here and be on the YouTube channel just a moment. How about
Sounds
that?
great.
All right,
Sounds
so
great.
thank you for coming
Ooh, you
to
are
Rocking It,
welcome.
Grandmom. It's been so good having you.
You're welcome.
And you have been a wonderful
You're
mother.
welcome.
I'm ready
and
to start my
grandmother and
pantry
great-grandmother.
cooking. Yes.
You're going to make your hamburger gravy.
I'm going to make my
Hamburger
Holy
gravy.
Trinity gravy.
Yeah.
I don't eat meat.
You
I
She
don't.
eats seafood.
So I'm a
she could put
You
some
can
shrimp
make
in
it
there
with
with
chicken.
it.
You can make it with chicken. You can make it with
You
shrimp.
can do that.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. You've been listening to Rocking It Grand, powered by the Christian Parenting Network. We appreciate you. We hope that you will hit subscribe, share the podcast with someone you love, and encourage other people to join the Rocking It Grand conversation. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So let's
Go.
stop that
So
now.
this is still
Papa,
on.
you come back here. This is
Okay.
still on.
Oh,
Let me invite Papa to come back here. And you, so everybody can see my
Come
Papa.
Papa.
Here's
Get in.
Here's Papa.
Good.
Papa is wearing his U.S.
I
Navy
think we should take a
veteran
picture
hat.
too before it's
Oh,
over
we
with.
should.
Yeah,
We
let's
should
get a
do
picture of
that.
Papa.
Papa, where did you serve? I tell you all the time I appreciate your service. So where did you serve?
I was in the Navy. I served on the East Coast and West Coast. I went to boot camp at Norfolk, at Great Lakes, Illinois. Went from there to Newport, Rhode Island. Come back to Norfolk, and after we went to the Mediterranean, come back and they had built some new ships down at Pascagoula, Mississippi, and they was asking for volunteers to come. So we went to Charleston, South Carolina, and put them in commission. We had to go to pre-commissioned school, small arm school, and damage control school. Then we went through the Panama Canal and went to San Diego, California. And then we went from there to the Far East, to Japan and Hong Kong. And
So now, which war is this?
I was
He wasn't in a war.
That was just
He was serving in
I was just
peacetime.
serving in
Uh-huh.
peacetime,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
We was at Midway Island and
Okay.
Pearl Harbor. We went
Oh,
there.
wow.
And Japan and Bombay, India.
You
One
saw the
interesting
world.
thing, Chris. So tell Papa. I've heard you tell about when he got out of service. He finished his service in California. He hitchhiked home
Oh,
to
from
Pennsylvania,
California.
Louisiana.
I hitchhiked one
Yeah,
time from
yeah,
Newport,
yeah.
Newport, Rhode Island. To,
But you could do
Crazy,
that.
But you
Yeah.
could.
You
Back
could.
then.
yeah, you
Yes.
could do.
My daddy
Wonderful
always picked
people.
up hitchhikers.
Yeah.
Wonderful
My papa.
people would pick us up, buy our
Yeah.
lunches, buy our
Yeah.
food,
Isn't that great?
take care of us. And Charlotte finally made me quit picking up hitchhikers because
Yeah.
I knew people would.
We ultimately had to quit.
Yeah.
Make daddy quit.
Because
too.
people are. I'm gonna get
Yeah.
you to come to this side so
Okay.
we can. See.
Uh,
There he is. You can see him
Get him
better
in.
between Mom and I.
A friend,
Okay, yeah.
a friend of mine and I, we hitchhiked from San Diego, California to Dallas, Texas. Mom and Daddy came out there with my sisters, and my older sister was living there, so we hitchhiked back.
And how many siblings did you have?
There was 10 of us,
10 of
plus,
them.
well, actually, there was 11 because Mom and Daddy raised the oldest grandbaby, so
Wow.
we had a house full.
You had a house full.
Yes, we did.
I was
And-
born in San Diego. At
You were?
3
Really?
days.
Yeah.
And Papa brought Mom over here today. We call Mom the queen of us all, and Papa is her long-suffering king. That's just kind of like our family joke.
Yeah.
So we're going to let him say goodbye, but thank you so much for bringing Mom, and thank you, Mom.
You welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Love
You're
you too.
We
welcome.
loved having y'all.
We love you
Love
too.
you.
Appreciate it.
Goodbye.
Appreciate it.